Welcome. Today we're diving into a really cool historical riddle. It's about a German scientist and an American school teacher, two guys who never ever met, but whose lives ended up being linked through their work with the Pawnee Nation. And believe me, the ending to this story is a twist you won't see coming. So, how can something like this even happen? You've got two men from completely different worlds. One's an academic from Europe, the other's a teacher out on the American frontier. I mean, on paper, their paths should never have crossed. But as you're about to see, history has a funny way of weaving these incredible, unexpected threads. Okay, so our story kicks off with these two men. They were living at the same time, kind of on these parallel tracks, but they had no idea they were both heading toward the exact same point in history, both in terms of place and in culture. So on one hand, you have Erich Moritz von Hornbostel. Think of a super meticulous European academic, totally dedicated to building this massive global library of sound. And on the other hand, you've got Jesse H. Bratley, a teacher for the US government just trying to capture what life was actually like on the American frontier. A scientist and a school teacher separated by an entire ocean, and you'd think by destiny itself.
So where do these two very different stories finally start to connect? Well, the first big clue is a single place, Oklahoma, right at the beginning of the 20th century. This is the spot where their separate worlds came this close to colliding. And check out the timing here. Brad Siegley is in Oklahoma right at the turn of the century. Then, just 6 years later, Hornbostel shows up to do his own research. I mean, they were in the same area, working with the very same communities, only a few years apart. It's kind of wild how close they were.
And get this, the main places they were working were only about 101 miles from each other. Back then, that's maybe a 2-day ride on a horse. You know, in the huge expanse of the American West, they were basically neighbors, and yet they never actually met. So what on earth brought a German scientist and an American teacher to the same little corner of Oklahoma? Well, they were both incredibly focused on documenting the culture of one specific group of people, the Pawnee. This is the real human thread that ties their entire stories together.
And what's so cool is that they were each preserving a different but equally vital piece of Pawnee culture. Hornbostel, with his scientific brain, was recording songs to study how people perceive music. At the same time, Bratley was writing down oral histories, capturing the personal memories and stories of individuals.
And Bratley was capturing some truly amazing personal accounts. I mean, listen to this note he took about a man named Pawnee Tom, who told him this story about the Battle of Little Bighorn. Now, historians are pretty clear that no one from Custer's immediate command survived, but this note, it preserves this incredibly powerful personal claim. It's a piece of oral history, saved forever right there in Bratley's notebook.
But it's how they were doing all this work that adds a whole other fascinating layer to this connection. Their methods, well, that's a story in itself. They were using parallel technologies, really cutting-edge stuff for their day, to do remarkably similar things. You can really see the parallel here, right? Hornbostel, the scientist, he's using the Edison phonograph to capture pure sound for his big archive back in Berlin. Bratley, the documentarian, is using a glass plate camera and a good old-fashioned notebook to save images and spoken words. One guy captured the voice, the other captured the face and the memory.
So what this all boils down to is that both of these guys were part of this big global movement of early ethnography, this drive to document human cultures before they changed forever. Hornbostel's angle was scientific, an outsider systematically analyzing things. Bratley's was way more hands-on, grounded in his day-to-day life out on the frontier. Two totally different approaches, but one shared mission.
So let's recap. We have the same place, the same people, and these parallel missions to preserve their culture. But the story is not over, not by a long shot. In fact, the most incredible part of this whole connection wouldn't happen for another 100 years. Just think about it for a second. Totally by accident, their separate work created this one unintentional archive of Pawnee life at that specific moment in time. Hornbostel's sound recordings plus Bratley's photos and notes, together they give us a much richer, more three-dimensional picture than either of them could have given us on their own.
And this is where a cool historical coincidence just becomes an absolutely unbelievable story. A full century after these two men were working just 101 miles apart, their great-grandchildren met and got married. The two family lines, which ran parallel for so long, finally came together, closing a historical loop that neither of those men could have ever, in their wildest dreams, imagined.
It really leaves you with a final thought, doesn't it? This whole incredible story was pieced together from scattered archives in Berlin and Denver, from old scientific journals and a teacher's dusty notes. It just makes you wonder, What other profound human connections are out there, just lying dormant in old boxes, waiting for someone to connect the dots?